right?
Wow, yeah.
And so what I'm doing is I'm putting that information together. I'm about to send it out, but I found something and I want to run it by you. So I was going through your credit report and I noticed that a lot of the comments from the credit bureaus really circled around your credit card debt. And you had mentioned to me that you're only making the minimum payments right now, and because the minimum payments will take literally tens of, if not 15, 20 years just to pay off the balance, I have an idea. If we were to remove these total payments, I would take your total payment, let's say 1,500 mortgage, 500 credit cards. Say I would be able to take your total payment of 2,000 and bring it all the way down to 1,600. And see, what happens is with removing the credit card debt, it's actually going to remove these comments from the credit bureaus. And so what'll happen is your FICO will go from the 680 upwards to 760. And that's going to position you so that you could save money over the over your lifetime in anything you finance. But here's the best part, is with that $400 in month-to-month savings, you can actually replenish your bank account, because Jordan had mentioned to me that you guys barely have $1,000 left in your bank account. Now it's important, especially with little kids and all your liabilities, that you have some sort of cushion.
Everyone I've locked, I've OG'd, so I've gotten to where when I'm gonna lock them, I have it set up to OG, like there's no other option, like this is a part of your lock, is signing these and moving it forward, and all the appraisals are ordered.
Good.
So in that area, I think I'm doing better. It's been a process.
Yeah.
Like, I know one thing that I was gonna talk about was like, the conversational 1003. Like that was so hard for me in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because, we're like going off a script and we're
Right.
like, no, we need to get this information.
Right.
And that's something that just in the last 2 weeks I've found has gotten really better. Like my initial call times, most of my calls are up at like 30, 40 minutes. I talked to one bar for like 2 hours the other day.
Yeah.
So it's learning how to ask the right questions has been tough for me.
Right.
Because sometimes it's like they just don't want to talk, like they don't care.
Right.
I even tried one and he's just like, well, that's great, but like I don't really, like he told me, like, I don't care,
Yeah.
just take my information.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so.
You're gonna be able to get a better read, as well as like some people that you talk to, they're very like their answers are very short, right? Like yes. You're like, well, do you want to elaborate on that? And then they just don't want to, is because they have like this shell, and it could be because they're either introverted or they're just very secretive. Some people are just more sheltered than most, even if it's on the phone. And so it's really kind of getting a better understanding of how they best work and how they operate, so that you can mold your message to their preference, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But this early part of your career, just because of how long you've been licensed now?
Well, licensed or taking calls?
Licensed.
I think I passed my test July 16th.
Okay.
I remember because it's 4th of July, I'm like studying on the beach.
Right.
So July 16th, I passed my test.
Okay.
And then we started taking calls technically about 4 weeks ago.
Okay, yeah. So you have about a month under your belt to go through the conversation. So a lot of things are going through your head, from like, am I doing it right? Is there any info I'm missing? Am I boring them? Right? Am I talking too much? And so at this point, because it's so early, you're in a mode of still customer service, like how you were, when you were a customer service representative, where it's more about kind of pleasing, right?
Yeah.
Like you're very, no problem, that's fine. You're trying to get them to the next stage, which is fine, but you have to balance it out with being almost the affirmative, right, consultant, and giving them the impression that this is going to be fast and this is going to be quick. Let me help you find out. I'm going to help you save a ton of time, right? But if they keep going off on like tangents and they're talkative or they're extroverts and they prefer going into too much detail, then you have to protect your time, right? Because you don't want every call to be 2 hours, because people might just like to open up to you.
Yeah.
And that's very common with females, because psychologically people will gravitate towards like their mom, right? They're more open to females. And so that's not a disadvantage. If anything, that can be an advantage to you, because you are in a position where it's a little bit easier for you to gain trust, right? And so that's why a lot of the top producers in the company are, females. Well, at least on my team. But in regards to the topics that you want to cover, what did you want to talk about?
One thing that I know I struggle with is like I've been able to implement a lot of your stuff into like the actual call, and I'm seeing it physically make me better.
Good.
One area I really struggle with is, and I know you sent the video out yesterday, but is the closing or the pitch part. Mm-hmm. It's like, because even if there's only a little benefit or I need to spin it a different way and find the benefit, I have trouble with making it sound like this is the best thing for you.
Got it.
Like I have trouble. Sometimes I can come out and be like really excited, but then it's like, my biggest issue is the pitching. Okay. I can have a great call with someone, but I struggle in the pitching, and I feel like that's where I lose deals.
Why do you feel like you're struggling in the pitch?
Because I can have a really good call with someone, and there is a deal for them, and then I don't hear back from them.
Got it. How do they end it and say, I want to think about it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That sucks. So you kind of just reverse engineer it, right? So if you're getting that particular response, the best thing to do is backtrack it. And so if you haven't already, you may want to take the opportunity to use our phone system to record your conversations, because then it goes to your voicemail, and then you can re-listen to it later. And so if you're calling somebody even on the application, you got a pitch set up, make sure you record both of them, because what will happen is you get to kind of analyze your own self, right, and go through it. But I can almost tell you what I can almost be certain of what's happening, and it's the transition. So it's the transition from the first call to the second call, and how the expectation is being set up, right? So let's imagine that we're at the end of the first call, and if you don't mind, let me hear it, right? Okay. So you got the credit report, you're about to let go. How do you end the conversation? What do you tell them? Say, okay, well, I'm gonna go ahead and, right? Yeah,
literally, I basically say, okay, Julia, like I said, your credit does look great here. I sent that to you in an email, so make sure you check that. You'll have to e-consent beforehand. That'll allow the credit report to come through. You'll be able to see everything I'm looking at. I'm going to go ahead and take about 30 minutes to get a couple options priced out for you, see what fits best to your situation, so we can pull out that $20,000 and try to get that payment to a comfortable spot. So will you be available to talk here at 4:30? And then they normally say yes.
Okay.
So.
Okay. And then now fast forward to the very end after the pitch, when they say, I want to think about it, do they at all say, well, I need to talk to my spouse?
Sometimes. And I've literally feel like I've heard your voice in my head say, even before when you're setting up for the pitch,
right,
is there anyone else that needs to be there?
Right?
And I've never said that, and I think about it when I hear them say, okay, well, I need to talk to my wife about it, or so it's like, oh, I hate that. I
no
think
worries.
that's a main point.
It's difficult because you know what the objective is, but sometimes you just don't know how to format it, right?
Yeah.
So first off, like every application call that I ever finish up, what I do is in the midst of the conversation, I don't tell them to give consent. I don't send the consent request yet. Okay. Because, sprinkled in my conversation, I'm giving them the impression that from little things that I say during the conversation of saying, differentiating myself. So I'm saying, hey, Jordan, what makes us different here is that we're a direct plug to the source. So in other words, we're a high-ranked servicer to Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, VA, or FHA. And what that means is the only thing I can put in front of you is what they're giving today in today's market. So it's not an advertisement or anything like that. There's no hidden fees or points. It's pretty straightforward. And so then I'll move into the application, right? And then so at the end of the conversation, I say, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and prepare your disclosures. When will you be at a home computer or an iPad or tablet to give consent? Because I don't wanna mail these documents to you. I'd rather send them to you digitally.
And you're doing this before you pitch?
Correct, yeah. This is before I end the conversation on my first call, right? And so they'll say, I'll be at a home computer or I'll be at my iPad at like 5:30. So even if it's like 11 o'clock, I'm not gonna call this person back until I know they're in a position where I can actually close them. Because if I say, 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock and They say, yeah, just call me in 30 minutes. I'm leaving it prone that he's still in an area where he's getting distractions. He's got deadlines, right? He's got meetings. So imagine how you sitting in front of your computer and you're trying to take a personal call, right? Like there's so many things that are going on. Your focus is not necessarily there. And even if they did step away, they're still not in position to make a sale. They're naturally going to want to say like, well, I'm not, they're thinking about it. And it's like, no, I'm not in a position. I'll think about it or give you a call back. And then 99 other things happen in between, right? So anyways. So
then are you sending like the actual disclosures, or are you sending,
it's just a consent request. So I control their perception of what the next step is. But it's just a covert way of me asking, when are you and your wife going to be available so I can pitch you?
Okay.
Because that'd be awkward, right? Because you're gonna set certain triggers by saying, when are you gonna be with your wife, or when are you and your wife gonna be together, or something.
Because at that point you should know who else is on the loan. Like
Correct.
You've already figured that out.
Correct.
So, okay.
Yeah. So and then if you do understand that someone else is involved, then you can easily say, okay, and then the missus or the mister or your husband or whatever, when will they be at a home computer? Because they're gonna need to consent too. I can't release it until you guys do. And so then say, yeah, they'll be at a home computer. She's a homemaker, or my husband will be home at 6. And then I know that I'm gonna give them a call around 6 o'clock, right? But I don't say that. I don't say, okay, I'll send you a consent request at 6 o'clock. I make note that they're gonna be available at home at 6 o'clock. And so how I end the conversation is, it sounds something like this. All right, Jordan, so I'm gonna go put the disclosures together. If I run into any questions or have any hiccups, I'll give you a call before I send them out. And that's it. And so at the end of that conversation, when I let go, I already have all my leverage points, right? So leverage points are the pain points. It's the Midas, right? The intent, the desire, what's going to make a move, what results are they looking for, and what the results would mean to them. And so I know all of this at that time. I don't know their employer's name. I don't know their employer's address. That makes sense. A lot of the 1003 technically isn't even filled out, and that's my bad. Except the crucial parts, right? Which is the income blocks, the declarations, because those are the pillars that hold up the loan. And so I'm finding out that, but I'm not finding out how many dependents they have.
So are you going through the declarations with them on the phone?
I'm almost within the first 3 minutes, because I need to. That determines the direction of the conversation.
So, but if the file isn't opened until we run credit, do you just have the declarations there so you know like what you're going through? Because the file technically hasn't been made yet, right?
Correct, yeah. Okay. So the declaration questions, they're pretty much the same.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing it for so long, I know which ones are more important.
Okay.
Right? I know they intend to use it as a primary home. I'm not really sweating the title. Okay. Like how are you going to vest this property?
Yeah, so you really don't have to read them all through. Right. You kind of just get it through the call so it feels more natural. Okay.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. So my declaration question would be like, do you have any solar liens on the home? Any solar panels on the house? Because that's something that's not on the declaration questions, but it's something that could stop your deal, right? Yeah. And say,
I had that happen. I didn't ask, and then I found out later when I was looking, and I was like, oh, shit.
Yeah. Or you say any previous bankruptcies, short sales, or foreclosures, and then what happens is, I co-signed with my sister. We short sold a home, but I didn't miss a payment on my mortgage, but technically are still responsible for a short sale, right?
Yeah.
So you understand what direction to go. But anyway, at the end of the conversation, you have a lot of the nuts and bolts of what they're trying to do, right? And so let's say if that was done at 11, I don't even work up the deal. I just keep all my notes. And me personally, I'm old school, so I open up an email and I type all the notes with their name in the subject line and the BV link, right? Because I'm gonna revisit it later. But on my calendar, I put at 5:30, if my call's at 6, to prep, because I want it to be fresh. Does that make sense? I don't want to work it up at 11 and then call them at 6 and be like, what was I doing at 11 o'clock?
Oh,
right? I need it to be fresh, so that way it comes off enthusiastic. Because then I'm looking at my notes like, oh yeah, okay, this is what they want to do, this is what they want to do. And so then it becomes very natural when you say it out, right? And then so at 6 o'clock, I just happen to have a question, or I ran into a hiccup, right? And so the call to them sounds something like this, like, hey Jordan, I'm actually getting ready to send out your disclosures. It's about to be on its way, but I found something and I want to run it by you. I got an idea and I want your feedback. Is your husband available? Can you put me on speakerphone? Of course I know they're available, right? Because they're both at home to give the consent. And so they put me on speakerphone, and let's just say your husband's name was Charles, right? Hey Charles, how you doing? My name is Daniel. I had a chance to speak with Jordan earlier. She shared with me that it was important for you guys to kind of create some cash flow so you could pay off about $30,000 in credit card debt. She mentioned me that you guys are only paying the minimum payment, and even though you pay the minimum payment, you guys are barely having enough money left over in the bank. She mentioned that you guys intend to keep this house and hopefully someday pay it off faster than the 28 years you guys have left. And so I'm sending out disclosures to help you alleviate some of these concerns. And so what I did is I just created massive rapport with the husband because he was never even there, right? But oftentimes what happens is that's usually the wife. And so the wife's, either way, they're now in cohesion because they feel like I'm their friend, like I know exactly what's going on, and then so that's me pre-framing both of them. Because 11 to 6 o'clock, a lot of things can happen, right? They probably had an argument about the kids spilling milk in the kitchen, right? And they're not in that mindset to buy from me yet. And so I need to put them in a position where they need what I have, right?
Wow, yeah.
And so what I'm doing is I'm putting that information together. I'm about to send it out, but I found something and I want to run it by you. So I was going through your credit report and I noticed that a lot of the comments from the credit bureaus really circled around your credit card debt. And you had mentioned to me that you're only making the minimum payments right now, and because the minimum payments will take literally tens of, if not 15, 20 years just to pay off the balance, I have an idea. If we were to remove these total payments, I would take your total payment, let's say 1,500 mortgage, 500 credit cards. Say I would be able to take your total payment of 2,000 and bring it all the way down to 1,600. See, what happens is with removing the credit card debt, it's actually going to remove these comments from the credit bureaus. And so what will happen is your FICO will go from the 680 upwards to 760. And that's going to position you so that you could save money over the life, over your lifetime in anything you finance. But here's the best part, is with that $400 in month-to-month savings, you can actually replenish your bank account, because Jordan had mentioned to me that you guys barely have $1,000 left in your bank account. Now it's important, especially with little kids and all your liabilities, that you have some sort of cushion, right?
Yeah.
And now besides that, after about 6 to 9 months, when your FICO improves, I can give you a courtesy service. Just make sure you guys don't miss any mortgage payments. As long as you don't, you're entitled with New American Funding for a courtesy service, meaning no lender fees. And so I'm going to show you guys how to get it into a shorter term and even a lower rate, because you're going to have a much better FICO. You'll have a couple months of living in the bank, right? You'll have no debt. And ultimately, you'll be in a position to shave years off the life of your loan. As a matter of fact, Jordan, I actually did the math. If we reduce just 6 years off the life of your loan, that's 72 payments of $1,000. That'll save you $72,000 in monthly payments. So I just wanted your feedback first before I send it. What do you guys think?
Wow.
Right?
That's incredible.
Every single time.
They can't say no to that at all. Like, there's no way for them to say no.
Correct, yeah. So the magic part about it is that they feel they're the one that made the decision, right? Because when usually the traditional or the mainstream way is the loan officer says, I got option 1, I got option 2, and I got option 3. Which option do you want?
Yeah.
Now
and that feels too much like car sales.
Correct.
I have this car, I have this car, and this car. Which one do you want?
Correct.
And that feels really salesy instead of consultancy.
Correct. Yeah. So with your current pitch right now, how does it sound? So when you give them a call and then they answer the phone.
Oh, it sounds total salesy. Total.
No worries. No worries. That's
total,
good. This is how you learn, right? So how does it sound though?
It's like, okay, so I make sure you have a few minutes to go over this. They always say yes. All right, perfect. So here's what I was able to work up for you. And again, this is all contingent on what you want to do. Everything's movable, but with wanting to pay off those 3 cards that you had to rely on last year, this is one of the ways we would be able to do that. And then I go over basically what the numbers say on my CCW.
What's a CCW?
A closing cost worksheet.
Oh.
You can just, sometimes they're, at least for us newbies, like they get really like, well, I really want to see the number. I want to see it, but like, I'm not going to send them an LE yet. The CCW, it's in the dollar menu, and it's been easy enough to like, and even for me, sometimes I just print them for myself. So I have all the numbers basically that are on the 1003 right there, and I don't have to scroll as much while I'm talking to them.
I think CCW is, in my opinion, I've never used it. That's why I don't even know what the fuck it is. Because what happens is on page 3 of your 1003, on the details of transaction, you see a lump sum of how much they're paying in closing costs, right? But the thing is, though, is that The only difference is when you present your pitch, you go price, logistics, and then benefit, right? Or technically you're framing it so you're getting a portion of the benefit up front, and then you go immediately into price, right?
See, I think I'm doing that wrong.
Right. So just swap it out and kind of present it as an idea first, because you already know from the first conversation exactly what they want to do. And all you're doing is presenting in a way where they first absorb and emotionally feel the result, because they're experiencing it as you're laying it out, right? So in 6 to 9 months, you're going to have a much better FICO, a lot of money in the bank, right? And you're going to be in a position to get a lower interest rate, get a lower payment, because that's going to help you overcome the objective later on when you tell them what the interest rate is.
Yeah.
Right. So it's like, what's the rate, Daniel? You're looking at 4.75. Right. Well, technically, I don't break it down that way. So what happens is, and I'll give you the full sales pitch. Right. So after I ask them, they say, what's your feedback on that before I send it out? That sounds great. Every single time. Yeah. How do we do that? Always. And that's the close. Right. Well, okay, so how you guys do it is, I first need to validate your ability to proceed. Again, as I mentioned, Charles, to Jordan earlier, we operate a little bit differently. The only thing I can put in front of you is what you actually qualify for. It's not an advertisement, it's not best case scenario. I'm a direct conduit to the source, and because of our high ranking, I'll know if I have a PIW. Because of our high ranking, I don't even need an appraisal on this home. Right, or if that applies.
Because you've already ran the certs and everything.
Correct. Yeah. So I do a lot of the homework up front. I dot my I's, I cross my T's, and I make sure that there's a bridge for us to stand on to even get to the other side. So there's a few documents I need to validate. Super simple. Don't worry about writing it down. I'll email you this checklist, where most loan officers have them write it down, but you don't know what they're writing it down on. A lot of times they're writing it down on junk mail.
Yeah, I go over it with them. And I tell them the same thing. You don't have to write it down. I'm going to send you a detailed email.
Yeah.
So you'll have that list.
Yeah. I always say, I'm gonna send you a quick, short checklist of a few items that I need. There's gonna be an attachment that you have to print and hand sign. But once I get that, it takes me less than 20 minutes to validate your ability to start, and then we can actually start the process. So you can, and then hit them with the benefits again, so that you can get the debts paid off, create the $400 monthly savings, improve your FICO, position you to shed 6 years off the life of your loan, right? And so then they even want it even more. And then say, but here's the thing is I just want to confirm with you. So with this payment, and I'll work out the payment with, I'm sorry, the payment. Yeah. So I never, unless they hinted to me that fees, like if I'm dealing with Mr. Patel and he wants the absolute free loan.
Why do you use Mr. Patel as an example?
It's just, yeah.
Is that
it's
just like
sales.
a random?
Yeah.
Okay.
So after a while, you'll know what that means.
Okay.
So Mr. It's just the stereotypical customer who wants the lower rate than, not even available, no fees at all. He just wants the unicorn,
okay.
And so it's that person, right? And so they keep mentioning, yeah, but what's the fee? What's the fee? And that's something that rings to them. And if I hear that in the first conversation, I'm always going to have a backup plan. But a lot of times I don't, right? Because I rarely sell loans with lender credit, because you can always offset and justify the closing costs because they get a payment deferral and escrow refund. Not only that, but $3,000 spread over 30 years is like $8. You know what I mean? Or $2 or whatever it is. So there's a lot of ways to justify that. But typically what I do is I sell them on the payment, right? So I said, again, we're going to bring your total payment to $2,000, and what I'm doing is I'm adding the mortgage payment with the credit cards, and then I'll let them know right when I get them kind of hooked. And I'll say, oh, also, I forgot to mention, you're going to get a payment deferral and escrow refund. So I do the math already and say it's going to be about $4,000. And right now, around this time of the year, I say, hey, just in time for Christmas shopping. You can put it in the bank, or you can pay off this Barclays card and turn your $400 savings into $500 savings.
So is there escrow refund about what we're collecting in escrows normally?
Yeah, it's just about minus out the prepaid interest.
Okay.
So if you see $3,000, I say, you're probably gonna get about maybe $2,000, $2,500. I'll work those figures out when you get me your documents, and I'll tell you exactly what that escrow refund is. But I'm estimating probably about $3,000 to $4,000. And then, so now they're more incentivized to give you the documents because they want to know what that number is.
Yeah.
Right.
And they want that.
They want the money,
Yeah.
right? So they're kind of sold on that money. They've already spent it, right? They're like, oh yeah, we could pay this off. We could do that. And then, and so it's very easy to kind of get them hooked in. And then that's pretty much it. So say, so what I'll do is I'll send you over that checklist. When do you, and then I'll start making it easy for them to gather documents. Like I'll ask them, are your pay stubs available online, like ADP or ePay? I don't know if your payroll system has it online at work. Because what happens is that if you give them an instruction to go get documents, they'll make it harder for themselves, right? They'll think like, oh, I don't know where I put my taxes, right? I don't know where my pay stub is. But if you give them a solution, like home insurance declaration page, a lot of them don't know where that shit is.
Yeah.
But if you make it easy for them and say, most of my clients, they actually have their insurance combined with their car insurance. So if you don't know where your declaration page is, just send me the stub that's in your glove compartment.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
And if you're dealing with someone who's self-employed and they have like a lot of tax documents, make it easy for them to say, hey, does your CPA email you digital copies of your tax returns, or do they give you hard copies, right? And so whatever they say, like, oh, they email it to me. Got it. So just forward me that email. Make sense? Or no, they give me paper copies. Okay, where do you usually store those? We store them in the safe or whatever. Okay, cool. So you know where that's at. So I'm helping them figure out where it's at. Because all I'm going to do...
So they don't get hard on themselves, get overwhelmed, and then just like want to quit.
Yeah.
Okay.
So imagine if I priced that 4.75 and I was able to give, let's just say for an example, lender credit of $16.29, right? And I already knew that. And so after I help them find out what the documents are, and I kind of map it out of how easy it is to get it, then I'll say, okay, now my last and final question, Jordan, based on this payment, this is what I can do is I can ask my manager to see if we can waive the lender fee, which is about $1,629, because we got this huge campaign that's happening in Orange County. We have a lot of presence there. There's a ton of volume there, but that thing expires at the end of this week. So the thing is, though, in order for my manager to approve waiving the lender waiving the lender fee, I'm gonna need these documents by tomorrow. So fortunately, we know exactly where all these documents are. Do you think you have these documents to me tonight, if not tomorrow morning? Right? Now you're creating the urgency because they want that.
Is it decently easy to get the lender thing waived?
Yeah, even if it wasn't, like I would say that right now this payment does come with prepaid interest. It's about, prepaid interest is points. It does come with prepaid interest in the amount of about, I would say like $2,000, depending on the loan amount. All you're doing is painting a picture. So even if you're reading like OB, and let's say 4.75 is like 99, right? Or 99.75 says it does have prepaid interest of about $700. And it just really depends on the pricing. But you just gotta paint the picture of giving them a hookup, right? So even if you're selling it at par, you could say, this currently right now has about $1,200 in prepaid interest that's required that you could finance. But I think I can help you get that removed. But I'm gonna need the documents by tomorrow. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if I get the documents by tomorrow, I can ask my manager to include you into this batch that's expiring this week, and then it'll be $1,200 extra that you save. What are your thoughts?
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I want that.
Because it's like so often we are getting PEs, especially right now, because we're figuring it out. So instead of just telling them that I'm getting this rate at par, painting it like that makes them feel inclusive into a special thing, which everybody wants to feel like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That makes everyone like, yeah, I'm special. I qualify for the,
Right.
You know what I mean? So that's, okay, wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. And just all comes together.
Yeah.
It's super efficient.
There's no way to say no to that at all.
Right. So that way, if it makes it to the pitch table, there's no reason why you shouldn't close it.
Yeah.
Unless you missed pieces in the front.
Yeah.
Like the leverage points, the pain points, and all that good stuff, right?
And I think I'm getting better at the front part of the call.
Good.
Much better. My talk times from like the first week and a half went from like 3 minutes to like 15. So,
Yep.
So it's getting better.
Good.
But yeah, no, that's amazing. I get a copy of this, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's going to be on YouTube, so you're going to be on the channel.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
No, yeah, because I feel like just the last 30 minutes is going to change everything.
Yeah, your
amazing.
close ratio, if you really get that down packed, is going to skyrocket.
Okay.
You'll be at an 80 to 90% clip.
Okay.
There's no reason why, unless, of course there's the one-offs, right? And that's why I said the 10, 20% variable is because maybe they want to go pray about it, right? Or they want to talk to their accountant or their lawyer, and things come up like that, and that's fine. But you're going to be very efficient and thorough if you present it in that way, because the focus is not on price, it's not on rate, and that's the key thing. The focus is on how can you relieve the pain, or how can you solve or provide a solution. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then use your creativity where if they didn't have debt and they didn't need savings, all you do is flip it on paying off the house, or maybe getting cash out to improve the household. Yeah, because they're either going to sell it or they're going to pay it off, right?
Definitely.
Yeah, even if they don't have debt. So if they do want to sell the home, or if they do intend to sell the home but they don't got any debt, then you talk about things like, based on the condition of the house right now, and let's just say 10 is the ideal perfect condition where you can just maximize the profit, or be the most valuable house on the block. What would you rate your house today on a scale of 1 through 10? And then a lot of them will say probably 6 or 7, and say, okay, what do you think you could do to the home to make it a 10? And I only ask this if they have no debt, right? They got great credit, a great FICO score, a great interest rate. And then I'll ask them that, and then be like, the wife wants to do the kitchen, we can do the master bath. And they start thinking and they start experiencing it, right? And you just get them going and say, based on your estimates, how much you think that will run you? Probably run like $40,000-$50,000. Okay, but how much will that improve or increase the equity of your home? Oh, wow, we'll probably be have $100,000 equity. Okay, got it. And then just move on with the application, because you're going to revisit that later on. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because either way, you're gonna shoot them out disclosures, but your idea is saying, hey, Jordan mentioned to me that you guys wanted to do the master bath, the kitchen, the blah blah blah, right? Yeah. And this can help you maximize profit for when you sell the home. So it's just a different twist to it. You see what I'm saying?
That's incredible.
Yeah. So
my mind's like blown with like solution. Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's super effective too. Yeah.
Wow. And you've been doing this forever, right?
Sales, I've been doing sales for a very long time. And the principle that I use here is the same thing that I use in all sales. I used to sell legal services, sold, done everything from timeshares to cell phones, but I've always geared around real estate.
Okay.
Yeah. So is that helpful? Answer a lot of questions?
Amazingly helpful. Cool. I feel like that's going to change my whole game, because it's like for only doing this for 4 weeks, I'm doing really good, like 9 and 9, and appraisals paid for, and like done. Yeah. I'm doing very well, so I'm very proud of myself. Yeah. But I've never been, like I told you before, it's like I've never been okay with being average. Like that's just not okay with me. It's not even an option. Yeah, it's not. Yeah. Same way when I was studying for my test, 3 hours a day, 6 on the weekend. Like failure was not an option. Good. It's never. So I'm like.
You got to keep that mindset.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Exactly.